Every month, millions of people get paid. And every month, millions of people ask the exact same question. Where did all my money go? The strange part is, most of them never bought anything expensive. No luxury car. No dream vacation. No massive shopping spree. Yet somehow, by the end of the month, their bank account tells a completely different story. So where does it all go? Is inflation really the only reason? Or is your money disappearing in ways you've never noticed? Today, we're going to follow every dollar from the moment it enters your account until the moment almost nothing is left. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why your money disappears, even when you think you're spending carefully. If I asked you where your money went last month, could you answer honestly? Not your biggest expense. Not your rent or your electricity bill. I mean every single dollar. Could you explain exactly where it disappeared? Probably not. And you're not alone, because this doesn't just happen to people who struggle with money. It happens to people with good salaries. It happens to business owners. It even happens to people who carefully plan their budgets. Somehow, no matter how much they earn, it never feels like enough. And that's exactly what makes this so strange. If people are earning more money than ever before, why do so many still end up feeling broke? For years, we've been told the answer is simple. You're spending too much. Stop buying coffee. Cook at home. Cancel your subscriptions. But what if that's only a small part of the story? Imagine two people. One earns $3,000 a month, while the other earns $8,000. Logically, the second person should have no problem with money. But surprisingly, many of them ask the exact same question. Where did all my money go? So maybe this isn't just about how much you earn. Maybe it's about how money quietly leaves your life without ever feeling like one big purchase. And that's the mystery we're about to solve. Because before we blame inflation, before we blame low salaries, and before we blame ourselves, we first need to understand how modern money actually disappears. The easiest explanation is usually the one people believe. If someone tells you they're always running out of money, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? They spend too much. It's such a common belief that we've stopped questioning it. Every budgeting article, every financial advice video, and almost every money expert repeats the same message. Spend less, cut unnecessary expenses, stop wasting money. At first, it sounds completely reasonable. But think about it for a moment. Imagine someone who pays their rent, buys groceries, fills up their car, pays their electricity bill, and goes to work every single day. None of those things are luxury purchases. They're simply the cost of living. Now imagine another person who earns twice as much. Logically, they should have no problem with money. Yet millions of people with higher salaries still end up asking the exact same question. Where did my money go? If earning more doesn't always solve the problem, then maybe spending too much isn't the whole answer either. Because if expensive purchases were the real reason people stayed broke, the solution would be simple. Just stop buying expensive things. But that's not what happens. Many people already avoid luxury shopping. They don't buy a new phone every month. They don't drive sports cars, and they don't live extravagant lifestyles. Yet somehow, month after month, their bank balance tells the exact same story. So maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along. Instead of asking, why do people spend so much? Maybe we should be asking, why has living become so expensive, without ever feeling expensive? Because that's where this story really beginning. We've been taught to watch out for big purchases. A new phone, a luxury watch, a vacation, a brand new car. Those are the expenses people regret. Those are the expenses people remember. But what if your biggest financial problem isn't something you'll ever remember? Because the truth is, most people don't become broke because of one expensive purchase. They become broke because of hundreds of tiny ones. A coffee on the way to work. A delivery fee that seemed too small to matter. A streaming subscription you forgot was still active. A convenience charge. A service fee. A processing fee. None of these purchases feel expensive on their own. In fact, most of them are so small that your brain doesn't even register them as important. And that's exactly what makes them dangerous. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with water while someone keeps poking tiny holes in the bottom. One hole wouldn't matter. Two holes wouldn't matter. But after dozens of tiny holes, the bucket never fills up, no matter how much water you pour into it. Your money works the same way. It rarely disappears all at once. It disappears one small decision at a time. And because every decision feels insignificant, you never notice the damage until the end of the month, when your bank account is almost empty. But here's the part most people never stop to think about. If these small payments are so harmless on their own, then why are there so many of them? The answer is simple: because small payments are easier to say yes to. Imagine walking into a store and seeing a product that costs $500. You'll probably stop, think, compare prices, and maybe even decide not to buy it. Now imagine the exact same product costing just $10 a month. Suddenly, it doesn't feel expensive anymore. You don't spend $500. You spend 10. And that's exactly how modern businesses want you to think. They don't want you to feel the pain of a big purchase. They want you to become comfortable with small ones. One subscription becomes two. Two become five. A delivery fee here. A convenience fee there. A premium upgrade. A cloud storage plan. A monthly membership you barely use. None of these payments are large enough to make you stop. That's the genius of the system. It doesn't empty your bank account with one massive transaction. It quietly collects tiny amounts over and over again until paying becomes a habit instead of a decision. And once spending becomes automatic, you stop asking, "Do I really need this?" You simply keep paying. But if these tiny payments are slowly draining our money, why don't we notice them? The answer has less to do with your bank account and more to do with your brain. Our brains aren't designed to treat every purchase equally. They react strongly to big losses, but they barely pay attention to small ones. Losing $500 hurts. Spending $5 usually doesn't. In fact, most small payments disappear from our memory within hours. That's why you can easily remember buying a laptop 6 months ago, but you probably can't remember everything you paid for last Tuesday. The money still left your account, but your brain never considered it important enough to remember. And when this happens over and over again, something interesting starts to happen. Spending stops feeling like a decision. It becomes a routine. You tap your phone, your card gets charged, and within seconds you've already moved on with your day. No cash leaving your wallet. No physical reminder that you've spent anything. Just another invisible transaction added to dozens of others. That's why, when people finally look at their bank statement, they're often shocked. Not because there's one huge purchase staring back at them, but because there are hundreds of tiny ones. None of them looked dangerous on their own, but together, they quietly became the biggest expense of the month. There was a time when spending money actually felt like spending money. You had to take cash out of your wallet, count every note, hand it over, and physically watch it disappear. It was a small moment, but your brain noticed it. Today, that moment is almost gone. You tap your phone, swipe your card, or click a single button, and the transaction is over before your brain even has time to process it. No cash leaving your hands. No empty wallet reminding you that you've spent something. Just a notification that disappears a few seconds later. This might seem like a small change, but psychologists have found that the easier a payment feels, the less painful it becomes. And the less painful it becomes, the easier it is to spend again. That's why modern payment systems aren't just faster, they're also far more dangerous for your wallet. Every extra second of thinking increases the chance that you'll change your mind. Every step that's removed makes saying yes just a little easier. One tap, one click, one swipe. It feels effortless. And that's exactly the point. Because when paying becomes invisible, spending becomes effortless. And when spending becomes effortless, saving quietly becomes the difficult part. But here's something even more interesting. If companies know that small payments are easier to accept, why stop at making payments invisible? Why not make spending feel good? That's exactly what modern businesses learned years ago. They realized that people don't enjoy paying for products. They enjoy the feeling those products promise. A food delivery app isn't really selling you dinner. It's selling convenience. A streaming service isn't selling movies. It's selling entertainment without effort. A premium membership isn't selling extra features. It's selling the feeling that you're getting something better than everyone else. In other words, companies stopped competing on products and started competing for your habits. Because once using something becomes part of your daily routine, you stop making a buying decision every time. You simply keep paying. And that's one of the biggest reasons money disappears today. Not because someone forced you to spend it, but because spending slowly became part of your lifestyle. The transaction only takes a second, but the habit can last for years. For most people, this is where the conversation usually ends. They blame inflation. And to be fair, inflation is real. The price of food has gone up. Rent has become more expensive. Fuel costs more than it did just a few years ago. Almost everything costs more today than it used to. But here's the mistake people make. They assume inflation is the entire story. It isn't. Because inflation can explain why things became more expensive, but it can't explain why people earning twice as much still feel like they never have enough money. That's because while prices were rising, something else was happening at the same time. Our spending habits were changing. Payment systems were becoming easier. Monthly subscriptions became normal. Convenience became an expectation instead of a luxury. In other words, inflation wasn't working alone. It had help. And when rising prices combine with invisible spending, automatic payments, and habits that quietly grow every year, the result is exactly what millions of people experience today. You don't feel like you're making terrible financial decisions. You simply feel like your paycheck never lasts as long as it used to. There's another reason money disappears that almost nobody talks about, because it doesn't happen in your bank account. It happens in your mind. Economists call it lifestyle inflation. It begins the moment your income increases. You get a raise, a better job, or a promotion, and naturally, your standard of living begins to change. You move into a nicer apartment. You start ordering food a little more often. You replace things earlier than you used to. You choose convenience instead of patience, premium instead of basic, and suddenly, what once felt like a luxury becomes your new normal. The strange thing is, none of these changes feel irresponsible. In fact, they feel deserved. After all, you worked hard for that raise. But here's the problem. Every time your income grows, your expectations quietly grow with it. And once your lifestyle moves up, it almost never wants to move back down. That's why so many people feel exactly the same, even after earning more money than they ever imagined. Their income increased, but so did the cost of the life they became used to. Before they realized it, the extra money they worked so hard to earn had already found somewhere new to go. By now, you might be thinking, so what's the real reason my money disappears? The answer isn't one thing. It's everything working together. Inflation makes life more expensive. Small payments make spending harder to notice. Digital payments remove the feeling of parting with money. Companies build products around habits instead of one-time purchases. And as your income grows, your lifestyle quietly grows with it. On their own, none of these things seem powerful enough to empty your bank account. But together, they create something far more dangerous than a single expensive purchase. They create a system where losing money feels completely normal. That's why, for so many people, being broke doesn't happen because of one bad decision. It happens because of hundreds of perfectly reasonable decisions that never felt like mistakes. Every one of them made sense in the moment. Every one of them felt affordable. But month after month, they slowly added up to something much bigger. And by the time you finally notice what's happening, your paycheck is already gone, and another month has already begun. The most dangerous part of all of this is that none of it feels like a trap while it's happening. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to waste all their money. Nobody intentionally chooses to live paycheck to paycheck. It happens gradually. One extra subscription doesn't seem like a big deal. Ordering food after a long day feels justified. Paying a little more for convenience feels worth it. Upgrading your lifestyle after a promotion feels completely normal. Every decision makes sense on its own. And that's exactly why it's so difficult to notice the bigger picture. Because your financial habits aren't built in one day. They're built through thousands of tiny decisions that slowly become automatic. Over time, those decisions stop feeling like choices and start feeling like the only way to live. That's why so many people believe they're simply unlucky with money, when in reality they're following the exact same pattern that millions of others are following without even realizing it. Does that mean saving money is impossible? Not at all. But it does mean that most people are fighting the wrong battle. They spend weeks looking for ways to earn a little more money, while completely ignoring the hundreds of tiny decisions that quietly take it away. The problem was never one expensive purchase. It was never one bad financial decision. It was a system built around making spending feel easier, faster, and almost invisible. And once you understand that, something changes. You stop looking at your bank balance as a mystery. You begin asking better questions. Do I actually need this? Am I paying for convenience, or simply paying out of habit? Is this improving my life, or has it quietly become another automatic expense? Because the moment you start noticing the decisions you never used to notice, you're already doing something most people never do. You're paying attention. And sometimes, paying attention is worth far more than earning another paycheck. At the beginning of this video, I asked a simple question. Where did your money go? And by now, you probably know the answer. It wasn't stolen overnight. It wasn't lost because of one expensive purchase. It disappeared quietly, one invisible decision at a time. A fee you didn't think about. A subscription you forgot existed. A habit that slowly became normal. A payment so small your brain ignored it. None of these things looked dangerous on their own. But together, they told the same story that millions of bank accounts tell every single month. So the next time you open your banking app and wonder why there's almost nothing left, don't just look at the number. Look at the journey your money took to get there. Because your paycheck was never disappearing all at once. It was disappearing one ordinary day at a time. And once you see that, you'll never ask, where did all my money go? The same way again.